The South Dakota Supreme Court decided that a landlord was not responsible after a tenant was attacked by an aggressive dog on their property. Did they make the right decision? I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting topic to bring up today, and it has to do with aggressive dog breeds. Now, obviously, the pit bulls are the ones that a lot of people think of, but that can also include other breeds such as the Rottweiler or the Doberman Pinscher. And, there's other breeds that I'm not, even aware of that people consider them to be more aggressive type of dogs, right? And so a lot of landlords do not allow these sort of dogs on their property. And the reason is pretty simple. Their insurance won't cover it, okay? If your insurance doesn't allow you to rent your property with those type of dogs on it, then you're not going to allow them in there. But like I've said many times, you can't control what tenants do without letting you know. So even if you say, hey, I'm not going to allow any pets on my property, sometimes tenants will move them in anyway, okay? And if they moved in at a long time ago and then at some point in time they decided, hey, I want a pet and I'm going to get this pit bull and just move it in, well, sometimes the tenants won't let you know, won't ask, they'll just do it, okay? So should a landlord be responsible for that? In my opinion, no, okay? That should be wholly on the person who brought that animal, if it causes any trouble, should be solely on the owner of that animal, okay? And not on the landlord. This isn't an issue of the landlord being negligent in the grand majority of cases. So, that's why I brought this article today. I thought it was an interesting topic, and I wanted to see what everyone else thought about it. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. As a landlord, would you rent out your property to someone who owns an aggressive breed? And if you found somebody in your property who, maybe moved in and they didn't have that dog originally, what would you do? Would you file for eviction, tell the people to get rid of the dog, or would you just accept it, or what? I'm just curious what other landlords are doing. And, this is an important topic because this really does happen a lot. And I hate to see somebody get caught up into the sort of lawsuit that is, happened here in this article that I have today. So this article is coming from argusleader.com, and it says, South Dakota Supreme Court rules landlord not responsible for 2018 dog bite on Aberdeen property. So the landlord actually won this case, but keep in mind, it's 2022 right now. So while the landlord's getting drugged through the courts for the last 4 years, paying tens of thousands of dollars worth of legal fees, what would be the easier option? Just to say, no, we're not going to allow these animals in the first place, or to go through all this mess just for them to say, oh, well, you're not responsible after all. I honestly don't want to even have to go to court in the first place. So you know what my opinion is. But let's get into the article and see what it says. The South Dakota Supreme Court sided with a landlord, agreeing they were not responsible for a dog bite that happened at their Aberdeen apartment building. In the opinion filed on Wednesday, the court affirmed the circuit court's decision that Kevin Davies could not sue GPHC LLC for negligence after Davies was bit by his neighbor's Rottweiler in July 2018. Davies had been returning home from work on July 25th when he saw his neighbor's girlfriend with their dog Tequila in the backyard near the parking lot, according to the opinion. Davies was walking toward the building when Tequila approached him and bit him without provocation. So yeah, this is a bad situation. You have one neighbor, whose dog runs up and attacks another neighbor. So whose fault is this? It's pretty obvious to me that the neighbor who did not have their pet properly restrained, if you have a dog and it's, more aggressive dog, you need to always have it on a leash. And why do I say this? Because I own a pit bull myself, okay? I have a pit bull, and I don't leave the house unless this dog is on a leash. And she's not an aggressive dog, but I don't want to find out what happens if there's another dog that she doesn't agree with, or, I don't want any trouble at all. Okay, so I make sure that if I'm outside of my house, if we're going on a walk or something, she's on a leash. If we're at my house, I have a fenced in backyard and the gates are always closed and locked so that she cannot get out. Okay, and the reason I do this is for my own liability purposes. But I think a lot of pet owners are just they're stupid. I mean, that is my personal opinion. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to the park, I've gone out running, and people have had their dogs off of leashes, and they're, oh, my dog is gentle, right? And I'm like, maybe your dog is gentle to you. I don't care if your dog is a golden retriever and, normally they aren't aggressive. For some reason, that dog can maybe get aggressive with another dog that they happen to see, or maybe with a small child or whatever, and there could be a problem. So that's why you always need to have your dog on a leash. Goodness, why are pet owners such jerks about this stuff? The public parks, public areas, they aren't your personal yard. Okay, I know I'm ranting here, but it frustrates the living heck out of me, because I am a pet owner, and I've always found myself to be trying to be responsible, and I've always had these people who acted like complete jerks, like they run the world and let their dogs roam everywhere. And then they wonder, well, why did my dog get run over? Well, they were chasing a squirrel and ran out into the street, and guess what? They got ran over. That's your fault for not having your dog on a leash, not having control of your dog. Oh, my dog, never aggressive before, but for some reason attacked this other. Well, that's your fault, okay? Be a responsible pet owner if you're going to have pets. And so in this situation, the whole thing could have been avoided if this person had their dog on a leash. Okay, you live in an apartment complex. Why is your dog off of a leash? Oh my goodness. Okay, and then this aggressive breed on top of that? Oh man, it's just so annoying. One of the worst stories I have is I was out running. I was training for a marathon, and I'm running in a nice public park, and there was a guy there, and he had a pretty large pit bull, right? Now, I'm not afraid of pit bulls or anything, right? But I purposefully avoid them. Well, he was way over. He was probably, a few hundred feet away in a parking lot, right? But when that dog saw me, the dog just ran straight for me, right? And I was in a panic because I was like, I don't want to get bitten. I don't want to get bitten by this dude's dog. Fortunately, the dude was able to call that dog back before that dog attacked me, right? But I yelled at that guy and I said, hey, you keep your freaking dog on a leash. The law, at least where I live, says dogs have to be on leashes at all times. You are an idiot. And I told him that to his face. And I was like, get the heck out of here, because I'm about to beat the crap out of you for letting this happen, okay? And he left, but I could tell that he thought, oh, I was the wrong in this situation. Well, like I said, this whole sort of thing, it just pisses me off. But let me get back to this article, because I'm going off on a tangent here. The resulting injury required emergency corrective surgery, according to the opinion. The dog had previously gone after Davy's own dog, but according to the opinion, Davy said he'd never had a problem with Tequila. A few months later, in October, Davies filed a civil suit against GPHC, claiming negligence for failing to exercise ordinary care. For failing to exercise ordinary care in the control, management, warning, and care of its property, according to the opinion. Now, that was, this is a lawsuit where you can tell that this guy was going after who has the money, okay? It's pretty obvious who this tenant should have been suing, and it was the owner of that dog. But the tenant knows, well, this other tenant, I can't sue them because they're broke, okay? They're just another tenant like me. But this landlord has money, so I'm going to sue them. Maybe they'll settle out of court and I'll get me a big payout. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is why, all of the litigation in our society just makes things worse, okay? It causes people to, they can lose everything because of these ridiculous, frivolous lawsuits. And here we are 4 years later, and this lawsuit was finally thrown out. Fortunately, this landlord was able to maintain operations long enough for them to win this case. Mark Rich, who owns GPHC, lives in Arizona and was unaware that Tequila presented a danger, according to the opinion. Jay Black, who owns Tequila, had informed Rich about his dog and asked if Tequila could live in an unattached garage because of his concerns about the dog's barking. The circuit court asked for a summary judgment because of a lack of precedent concerning a landlord's liability for injuries inflicted by a tenant's dog, and found that the landlord is not liable for injuries that occurred without actual knowledge of the animal's dangerous propensities. So yeah, basically the court is saying, how can the landlord be held liable for a dangerous dog if the landlord had no idea that the dog was dangerous? Okay? You're saying that it's the landlord's fault that, you got attacked, but the landlord had no clue that this dog was dangerous. But here is what I'm saying, okay? If you're a landlord out there and you allow these, more aggressive breeds into your property, you are the one who is going to be facing, all of the lawsuits and everything if you even allow it. So why do it? There's no benefit to it for you at all. And if you catch a tenant with this sort of breed on your property, the best thing to do is, ask them to remove it or file eviction. That is the best thing you do. Write it in your lease. No aggressive breeds allowed. That's what I wrote in my lease, okay? Even though I own a pit bull, I won't allow any of my tenants to have a pit bull on my property, on my rentals, okay? And I have, umbrella insurance policies for all my, everything is covered. But I just don't want to have to deal with this sort of issue whatsoever. And I don't think any landlord does.